Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This time from Ostrava, Czech Republic. We will meet again in the Wasteless World Talks with Bill and Kevin. And the term today seems to be very simple. Just two letters, M-E, me. And because, Bill, you are on the top of the screen, if you close your eyes and you hear the term me, what came first to your mind?
To me, it is a pleasurable word. I like that word. It is it's going to sound very bad when I say it, but I like to think about me. What brings me joy? Who will come to see me? What adventures me will have today? It's got to be far deeper than that, but I have just never thought about it.
No, you got just 1 minute to get it in. And Kevin, what about you?
Well, I thought of foreign words, but this wonderful way of deflecting. If you're being accused of something and you say, moi, it's such a nice way of deflecting criticism. And I have no idea how that mechanic works, but it's really effective.
Quite interesting. In Czech, we use these two letters we use for European Championship, Mistrovství Evropy. So ME means the abbreviation of these two terms in football or ice hockey or anything. It's ME. But generally, when I thought about it and when it came to me as a topic of today's 7, I was thinking that really many people around me, and especially, for example, my mom, and so she never thought about herself first. She already dedicated her work to someone else, to the children in the kindergarten, then to her mother, her father, to us as children as well. So it is quite interesting, and it is very interesting to see the perspective from all around the globe, which is a very simple term. And when I close my eyes, generally I don't see myself. I see the globe, I see the earth, I see the planet. That's what I see when I wake up with the term me in my head. So it sounds strange as well. But we interrupt you, Bill. I think you would like to add something to the original thought.
I'm just wondering whether or not there are regional differences around the globe, cultural differences, and what did it mean 100 years ago? And what does it mean to, I think that young kids, my grandchildren, for example, ages 8 and 6 and 2, when they think of the word me, or when they think of me, because I think children are more self-centered, and as we mature, does that make sense, that as we mature, we become less self-centered and more like we are a part of the world and we are all connected?
You know, when I look around me and I see people like Klaus Schwab, I don't think that it's matching.
I think that Freud, he had 3 stages of consciousness. There was id, ego, and superego. And each one is a progression upwards. So in theory, Bill is right. There's always exceptions to these things. One thing I think is really easy or interesting is, and I don't know if it's a grammatical thing or something else, but the difference between me and I. Is there a difference?
Well, I is capitalized and me is not. Why?
Yeah.
I just have a trouble. I have a tomorrow presentation, and the presentation it's called by Czech sentence by question, and I am not able to translate this question in English. Even in German, I'm not able, because these both languages do not have the one specific word which we use, and it's not there. It's like hard to explain. I will write it down after, and I will try. I will ask you for help, because it's quite interesting. Like having and feeling, these two terms we use in a special sentence, but English use only feeling. Do you want to feel better, let's say? And of course, everybody would like to feel better. But we have a second which says, I know it's not correct, but do you want to have better? This is how I will translate word by word. And this does not exist in English, or at least I haven't found this way of expressing it. And I spoke with several people, with native speakers, even in Germany, they have a different word, but they say feel as well. But it is very important because it's connected to the term enough, which we discussed before. It's really close connected. And I'm not able to translate it. It's so strange. And right now you came with me and I feel a very, very similar expression. Because when I translate it into Czech, me means ja, and I means ja. So we use same term. We don't use two terms. Of course, we have another words, but I will say that we use same term.
It's interesting because you can actually extend it. So you have I, me, and you have my, mine. Why are they different?
They're really interesting. And you ask about, Abel, you ask about, or Kevin, you ask about.
That would be different to.
Yes, Bill?
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. If we went back in time 1 or 2 or 300 years to see how each of those words was used, and where in the world it was used differently, because they all travel these paths to today, and I'm just not I'm not a good enough etymologist or English teacher to be able to know what that path was, but the languages are continually changing and merging and diverging, and whole languages are disappearing. And if you listen to my children and grandchildren, whole new languages are being invented as we go along. It's continual change for language.
And for me, interesting is the capitalization of the letter I. I never thought about it, but it's because we use capital letters on the beginning of a sentence, and we use it with our names and with some names. This is how we use it in Czech Republic. We can use, even if I say you, we can use it because we speak similar to German. We have a difference if I try to speak to a friend and if I try to speak to someone who is older and I would like to pay some let's say,
Respect.
Respect, exactly. So we speak a slightly different way. There we can use a big letter U generally. But I never thought about I, that it can be written in a small way, or me in a big way, as a capital letter. Who introduced it? Shakespeare?
No idea. Well, he invented a lot of words. I don't know if he had a hand in that one too.
But it's quite interesting because if we speak about me, the discussion which I have at the noontime on the way, which was first in the way, we ran it through the hands-free in a car. It was quite funny. And I was expected, it was a Mercedes car, and I was expected there was a moment when we spoke about machines and so on, and I was expected right now will speak the Mercedes AI to us, but it did not. So it did not interrupt us, which I am not sure if it was a good sign or a bad sign. but it was quite interesting. And generally from me, we came to the difference between one person and impact of one person and the many persons, and with how it changed, how the people approach it in Africa, in Philippines, and so on. And we came up to the revolutions generally, where all the me's came together in 70s to get away the dictator who was at the time, and have a new president and new rules and new government. And it was very similar to us. It was non-violent change in a politic of the country. And at the end, we came to a very interesting thing, which we frequently are touching. And this is the moment of change, where the people will understand that the change is needed and they will wake up. So Charito used the term boiling point. And that's, I think it is. We are somehow putting the wood on a fire, or the coal on a fire, and we are very close to the boiling point, which should change generally the future of us and of the children especially, so of the next generation. And somehow I feel the term me should be part of it.
Actually, interestingly, the opposite of me can't be you, which means that the opposite of me must be them. Does that make any sense?
Well, could the opposite of me be we?
Yes, actually, yeah, it could. Yeah.
That we is inclusive, and them is us and them. It's tribal, but it could be. And I really hesitate to use the word should, because then we're putting our ethics and morals to judge somebody else. So I dislike the word should, but we or them makes sense. I'm not sure there is an opposite to me. Maybe.
This is what I like to say, exactly that, because I don't see the opposite of me. What is me? Know me, maybe. I don't know. If there must be an opposite to everything.
Yeah, when we started, you asked me the first question, and I'm thinking, what brings me joy? I'm thinking about me. It's very introverted. So maybe the opposite is extrovert, or maybe the opposite is, instead of me, everything revolving around me, everything revolves around us, or I am a part of everything else, which means I have to think of the greater good, not just the good for me. And so then the opposite might be us or we.
Or another way to look at it could be that the opposite of me is nothing. Because me is an observer. And so if there is the opposite of me, means nothing gets observed. So there is nothing.
And maybe the world around us is simply a figment of our imaginations, and our own minds have invented everything. Just like our own minds can invent time, our own minds can invent everything around us.
What you just described, it reminds me on an official letter which sent a group of Industry 4.0 specialists from Germany to German government 2 days ago. They write a letter that the term Industry 5.0 should not be used because it's confusing. In fact, Industry 5.0 is Industry 4.0, just with a different term. And I have to laugh. And that was
so
that letter.
Yes, that's a perfect example of what I just said about using the word should. It's from their standpoint, it's the same, which means they don't understand it.
And you know, it's crazy because I said exactly the same when I speak about the Industry 5.0 fake. And this is what they do. Just the difference is that they don't know there is an origin because they do not dive deep enough few years ago to learn that European Commission introduced just a fake. And it was so crazy. So I contacted them. Of course, nobody came back. I do not expect that, but it was so interesting. You know, it's right now they are confirming. You know, in an official letter, I can send it, share it to you. It's in English, and it's really funny. It's really fun, and they did it in Munich, which is 280 kilometers from the place where I am sitting and where the Industry 5.0 was born. But I like the nothing, Kevin. I think nothing, it's much more closer to the answer. I don't know whether it's opposite, but I feel we are something and there is nothing. So me can be, yes, nothing can be the opposite. This is very nice. Very nice.
I don't know if you've ever heard of a book called The Master and His Emissary. I saw an interview with the guy who wrote it, and he was explaining about how we interpret the world through the two hemispheres in the brain, and that he said that, I can't remember the left and the right and the functions of them, but he said that almost all mental illnesses only come from one hemisphere. The other hemisphere is free from mental illness, which was
Is that
really,
true?
apparently that's what and this guy, he's right at the top of our knowledge of the brain. I mean, that was really, really interesting. And being Scottish, he discussed swearing, and we swear all the time in Scotland. And he was explaining that swearing is so basic, it doesn't come from either hemisphere, it comes from the little bit at the bottom of the brain.
Just yesterday, there was first of all, there is the US government is trying to ban TikTok. And a few days later, generally, the European Commission is trying similar, but they explain that TikTok is generally a drug addiction, that it causes addiction with the young adults. So it's quite interesting how the development is going. You know, we are developing tools which we are banning the next day to put the money in a. So it's such a turbulent, and you said it many times before that the speed of changes of today it's slower than the speed of changes of tomorrow, which is absolutely right. And but if you look at the politics, if you look at them when they need 10 years to take a decision, it's just fun. It's just a comedy in such a scale, which is unbelievable, And I think that the giants, they do want to take me away from us, or even I. They do not want me to be me. They would like to be us. They would like to be the big group of non-individuals generally. So this is why I think the term came to my mind about a week or two ago.
Did you hear about the, I don't know what it's called, Amazon has its own AI with some gentle, nice name, of course. And it has been programmed to be woke. So somebody asked it to generate a photograph of Nazis. And so it generated this image, but it was multicultural, because Amazon doesn't want to have its AI to offend certain people, which I think is, you know, we can think for ourselves or we can use machines to think for us, but there are no benefits in asking a machine to do anything for us that we can't do ourselves.
And I think, do you mean the picture where there was a black Nazi, whatever, general or whoever in the uniform? Yeah, I saw that. Just today in the morning before we left, I have read in a German newspaper that there are thousands of flights right now are being cancelled or are influenced by the fact that there is a big scale of the GPS hacking for planes. And we discussed it about 3 months ago, something like that, where it showed the first sign that something like that can happen. And right now there should be thousands of influenced by that, and they connect it to Russia generally, which shows up how easy it's to influence not one, not two, but 10,000 of people by just one click of a button. You know, and the thinking by ourselves or letting the machine think, that's so important. You know, they don't want us to think, because they said machine is all the time better, it's faster, it's whatever. But it's not human, and I don't think it will become human.
I suspect, like everything else, that there's good and bad. So machines have been landing airplanes and taking airplanes off for decades. And it's because when you follow the checklist, and there are 1,000 different items on the checklist, it's beyond the human capability to do that quickly or effectively. And the same way with the autonomous vehicles, there's lots of negative things about that. But every time I am walking on the street, I see people texting while they're driving, or there's just so many distractions that the machine will not have those distractions. Now, yes, there can be cataclysmic problems when somebody hacks into that computer and makes everybody crash. That's very possible. I mean, we're understanding how possible that is. So it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Humans are so fallible. There's so many things I do not know. There are so many distractions that we let ourselves. We were just talking the other day. We went up to Boston last weekend, which is about a 2.5 hour drive, and people are driving so stupid now. It has really changed since the pandemic. One of the reasons I suspect is that they're trying to, the enforcement, the police are trying to reduce the number of altercations with drivers. There have been some very well publicized altercations and fights and even worse. So they're not stopping people on the highway for minor infractions like a broken tail light or something like that, which means that there are fewer cops on the road, which means that people realize that, and so they're speeding, they're cutting in and out, they're doing things they didn't do, or at least they're doing things with a frequency that we've never seen before. So, so what would having the cars being driven by a machine or a computer, is that better than the way that they're driving now? I happen to think so. That's an opinion.
Yesterday, yesterday there was a published footage from LA or somewhere there. There was a let's say small electric vehicles like unicycles, kick scooters, and so on, ride through the city approved. And one of the autonomous taxis by Waymo or something like that, they are called, they just follow them in the opposite direction of the road. They just follow the crowd generally, which it shouldn't do because it was a one-way road. But the machine did not tell. It saw many people riding in a speed which it's generally the speed of car in a city, and it's just following. And they have a great footage out of it, and it was on CNN or somewhere. So I think the safety, what will you say if you will drive? You have to sit still behind the wheel, but the machine will drive, and there will be an accident. Would it be, will you say it was me or it was the machine? And how will you prove
So
that it was you? So
that's an excellent question. That gets into the ethics and governance. That's at the end of every ripple effect string that we keep talking about. And we are just walking in the door of this AI and so on. We have no idea where it's leading us. So we will be smarter. We will know more a year from now and 10 years from now. And 50 years from now, we'll probably laugh at how infantile our thinking was back in 2024 about things like AI.
you know, you just mentioned the term AI, and it came to me with a different perspective in connection to what Kevin says about me and I. What about if A and I is something and me? Artificial me, for example, AI.
Artificial me. That's exactly where we're going.
Yeah.
Digital twins, right? And at some point, we will be a brain on the table, and we will be willing things to happen. Okay, now I'm going to open the window. AI hears that and opens the window. I think 100 years from now that will not sound too weird.
The interesting thing will be is that will AI develop psychological problems or personality problems or things associated more with the mind than the body? Speaking of the, from a psychological rather than neurological point of view.
That's a heavy question, and I suspect since it will be programmed by millions of different people with millions of different psychological problems, I suspect it will. And in fact, that's probably a great deep fake objective. If I can get into your AI server and make it feel, for example, paranoid, maybe by programming the worst case scenario of the following 10, and until it becomes paranoid. Yeah. And then we'll be right back to 2001: A Space Odyssey when he unplugs Hal, right? That's what we'll have to do, is we'll have to unplug Hal and go back to no AI. Could we live with no AI? Could we live with no AI? There will come a time when we will not be able to answer that.
I think today the question is, can we live right now without a smartphone? Because that's a similar. We get so used to a smartphone, or majority, I will say majority of people, that it will be for us hard, very hard. But very soon we will get so used to this AI that it will become a second smartphone, second part of us. I don't know if you have seen this human pin. Have you seen the human pin? Human pin is a small accessory like of this size, which you put on a t-shirt or so. It has AI inside. It has a projector. So if you would like to know something, it projects into the palm of your hand. So you don't need a screen, and you just speak to it. So you say, whatever, I don't know what its name, pin, please record this moment and whatever. And they launched it 2 or 3 months ago as a new type of products, expected big market share, because you will have not a bulky phone, but really a small pin on your chest. Every single review says, who developed such a, sorry to say, such a bullshit? It's unusable. It it is unpractical, it is whatever. There was not a single good response to that. But it indicates me, that it will become successful. And the worrying part for me is called human pin. We become the carrier of a second brain, which will not be here, but will be on our chest, close to the lower part of our body, where we say the decision does not came from the brain, but from the gut. I think you mentioned that last time. So I am worrying about it, because it's so small, it's so almost invisible. Right now,
I think it's a great idea. If somebody asked you a question 50 years ago that you had to come up with an answer for, I would go to the library, or maybe I would call on a telephone to some friend who was smarter, but I would go to the library and I would look in the file, and I'd come up with a card that told me what book to go look for, and I'd go look for the book, and then I'd leaf through trying to find the answer to what. Then we had on our laptops, we would go to Google. That was 20 years ago, or I don't know when Google was started. But now I go to my cell phone, I go to the Google app, and there's a microphone on there, and I push the microphone, and it does just what you're saying this thing on my chest will do, right? It'll answer the question, it'll show me a picture, it'll show me a video, and it's right there. So all this invention really has done is take this and miniaturize it, and so I can wear it on my chest. But I like the idea.
I will send you the link. I will send you the link.
Yeah, please do. Like if I were a doctor doing a surgery and I saw something in this open wound of my patient, I would say, Google, what the heck is this thing doing in there? And right? Because doctors all the time, when they're operating, and even when they're not operating, they come across things that they don't recognize, right? Because nobody knows everything. But if you tap into the bigger, database of the internet, you can get an answer to anything. In fact, I don't know if I've mentioned it to you before. Stop me if I have. But a very interesting Google search would be to ask Google for the proof that Google is God. And there are 10 reasons why. So for example, Google is every place. Google knows everything, right? And so there's Google is God. And to some extent, there is some truth in that. Some truth.
Kevin, you would like to add something to that?
Yeah, I was going to say from what Bill was saying that in the old days, there's a lot of things have disappeared, like telephone booths and things like that. But one of the things which has disappeared is unanswered questions. But what has replaced unanswered questions is alternative answers. And I think this is really a problem. In the old days, you go to the library and you would look through and eventually you would find the answer. These days, when you go onto the internet, you will find 2 or 3 conflicting answers. And that is really a problem, because then there is no truth.
I imagine
and that's the world that we live in now, of deep fakes and so on. Yeah.
I imagine when we 3 meet today, face to face, for example, we are talking, we are putting questions and answer and opening on the table. Can you imagine when 3 people with human pin meet, the people who are not used to think, how the conversation will look like? Human pin will talk to human pin. They don't need to, they can exchange data, but they will do it for the favor of the owner. They will speak aloud, let's say.
will a human pin know how to ask a question?
I am not sure because it's, as I said, 3 months old. The development was longer, but I think it reached the market 3 months or 2 months before today. So I don't know. Even the AI and ChatGPT usually don't ask questions; they answer questions. If you ask them. On the other hand, when I have a discussion with AI, with these different types of ChatGPT about my work, time to time I get a question. Are you human? Click here. It's the most common one.
It's interesting. We don't get asked if we are robots. We get asked if we're not robots. Or I know, are you a robot? No.
It will be crazy if someone will change this question and really write there, are you a robot? I am sure many people just thinking they will not read it.
They don't read it.
Or,
yeah, I mean but that is the world we're coming to. It'll be a multiple choice answer, won't it? It will be yes, I'm a robot. No, I'm not a robot. Or I refuse to disclose.
Right. Right.
Or I am not sure. You know, have you ever seen that someone try to put Siri and Google Meet and the other speaking whatever AI things in one room to talk to each other?
As they were discussing the color of the wind, I suppose.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We will. It will be. You know, it will be like a football match. The human will put the ball in the middle. So the first question, and then look how these 3 or 4 or whatever machines will start to talk about it. It can be very interesting, and I'm confused why nobody came with this idea, or I don't know, maybe somebody did.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody has thought of that one yet. That would be fascinating.
And even there can be included the cars, because when Katerina wrote me here, she said you can speak to the Mercedes car. We tried, but it was not successful because we have been in an event at the time. But you know, why not to put a car? You know, what will be the perspective of a car comparing to the perspective of Siri? I don't know. And just today in the morning, I read that there has started investigation in the U.S. that some of the U.S. Animation movies companies, producers, use North Korea to make it, which is not allowed. And I do remember The Simpsons 30 years ago was exactly one of the episodes was dedicated to this topic. I think it was 30 years or 25 years ago. So
There's nothing new under the sun.
Unfortunately, the only news is that this is the last minute. So I would like to thank you for your time. It's really me, it's really you, it's really you. So we are here, we are the humans. This is to assure everyone. And I would like to thank you for your time. It was really a great discussion. And I would like to wish you have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be free, and be human. Thanks a lot. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.